Race has always been a noteworthy sociological idea, from the establishment of it, to the creation of the classical hypothetical statement, to its current term. Since the 19th century, sociological perceptions on race have been established as well as modified, always echoing shifts in large-scale governmental developments within our communities. U09a1 2000. Race relates to an individual's appearance. It is a critical part of one's overall framework. Race as well as ethnicity are terms used to categorize populations on the basis of shared characteristics. According to our text, race is an awareness as well as expression in theories is essentially a contemporary occurrence, or T 2014. There is a growing as well as a worldwide conflict in the meaning as well as the configuration of race and racism. This way of thinking implies that the worldwide racial state of interactions are unbalanced but also extremely under-theorized. U09a1 2006. It leaves room for the questions: what is the future of racially based social structures of racial identities? And how should we understand the meaning of race and racism? Race was once thought to be a natural phenomenon, not a social one. U09a1 2006. With this being said, assessment inarguably takes the place of social, cultural, historic, monetary, as well as governmental contexts. This context is defined by human reality as well as involvement. U09a1 2006. Multicultural communities. Challenges for law enforcement. Today, law enforcement is under a powerful microscope in terms of how citizens are treated. Minority as well as other ethnic communities have become increasingly competent in understanding the role of law enforcement, and even their expectations of law enforcement for better professionalism has been elevated from previous years. So with this being said, through increased awareness, knowledge and skill, law enforcement must and can increase its cultural competence. This is a process that evolves over time, allowing officers as well as the department to place a higher value on developing principles, attitudes, policies and even structures that will enable all parts of the law enforcement organization to work effectively within the community with all couleurs. If members of the community feel that their own concerns are not understood, their confidence in law enforcement personnel to meet these needs may be severely diminished. Unfortunately, this can adversely impact cooperation for reporting crimes and providing information vital to solving crimes. Raising cultural awareness. Law enforcement can more effectively bring police services to residents by establishing a substation within or close to immigrant neighborhoods, employing bilingual community service officers, distributing bilingual crime prevention materials, and being open to developing a greater cultural sensitivity can help law enforcement improve relationships, gain the trust of the community, and better help them address local crime problems. Americans often point to the separation of church and state mandated by the First Amendment as proof that we live in a secular society. However, momentary consideration of the following examples indicates that religious thought clearly pervades our thinking. The civil rights undertaking in the United States as well as the anti-apartheid enlistment in South Africa are the most noticeable instances of this. As it expanded its independence, the post-colonial world was rapidly entangled in the struggle of the Cold War. This setting placed not only the heritage of imperial rule, but also the racial policies of all superpowers under extra scrutiny, including the United States. U09a1 2000. Even though acknowledgement of these dilemmas increased and governmental modifications have made some headway in opposing the issue of racial injustice and inequality, these issues of race have not been overcome. Culture shapes how people experience their world. It is a vital component of how services are both delivered and received. Cultural competence begins with an awareness of your own cultural beliefs and practices, and recognition that people from other cultures may not share them. Culture plays a complex role in the development of health and human service delivery programs. The need for the provision of culturally appropriate services is driven by the demographic realities of our nation. Understanding culture and its relationship to service delivery will increase access to services as well as improve the quality of the service outcomes. Discrimination in sexual orientation. Individuals in Western civilizations who experience varying degrees of same-gender desire and attraction, and engage in same-gender sexual behavior are typically referred to by the terms lesbians, gay men, and/or bisexual women or men. The focus here is on the individual's sexual orientation, which is defined by the identity of the person to whom an individual is physically and emotionally attracted. Harper G. 2001. The term transgender, on the other hand, is focused on issues of gender identity and represents a range of individuals who do not conform to traditional societal expectations and roles for each gender, such as transvestites, transsexuals, transgenderists, androgynists, and intersex individuals. Harper G. 2001. A transgendered individual's sexual orientation is not defined by her/his gender nonconformity. Thus, transgendered people may experience sexual attraction to females, males, or both. Harper G. 2001. In today's society, to be a man in contemporary American in many cases is to be homophobic, that is, to be hostile toward homosexual individuals, mostly gay men in particular. Heterosexual masculinity as a culturally constructed indemnity that has been affected by the recent emergence of gay identity. Herrick G. 1986. This theory is usually defined as an irrational fear and intolerance of homosexuality or homosexual individual. Conclusion. Racism can be defined basically as a procedure or an acceptance, standpoint, action, and even indecision, which most individuals and even groups base their race on. There is a loss of particular historical establishment in this description for racism. Wynand H. 2006. Let's take into deliberation the loss of social as well as historical perspective, of which is the meat and bones of the definition. Wynand H. 2006. With this being said, some opinions inarguably take the place of social, cultural, historic, as in governmental contexts. This context is defined by human reality as well as its involvement. Wynand H. 2006. The issue of race has not been overcome. As international and national strategy of race has arrived into a new segment of uncertainty, the field of sociology must get up to the mission of getting an enhanced perception of what is going on when it comes to the ideas of race and racism. Wynand H. 2000. Sheldon. References. Herrick G. 1986. On Heterosexual Masculinity. Sony Psychical Consequences of the Social Construction of Gender. Retrieved July 31, 2016. www.sagepub.com.library.capella.edu. Orty, 2014. The Social Construction of Difference and Inequality. Race, Class, Gender, and Sexuality. 6 THED. McGraw-Hill Education, New York. New York. Wynand H. 2006. Race and Racism, Towards a Global Future. The Ethnic and Racial Studies. Retrieved July 31, 2016. www.ces260jh.files.wordpress.com. Wynand H. 2000. Race and Theory. Temple University. Retrieved July 31, 2016. www.soc.uxb.edu